When you get a real good idea, you should act on it.
If you tell yourself a lie often enough, you're going to start to believe it.
Overcoming fear is one of the greatest moves a person can make.
Top 10, I got a top 10. Got my motivation high for my top 10. Gotta learn from the wise women and men. All my life, like 9 and 9. For my top 10, top 10, 9 and 9. This one's for my top 10.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know there's something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So get ready to act on your ideas, believe, and overcome your fears with Bob Proctor and my take on his top 10 rules of success to give you the confidence, motivation, and belief that you need. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Act on your ideas.
Hello there and welcome. Do you know, almost everyone has a great idea, and they're going to execute their great idea. I have all kinds of people come to me, I've got a great idea I'd like to share with you. What they do is they want me to execute their idea. Why don't they execute their idea? When you get a real good idea, you should act on it. People have ideas of starting a business. I've started a number of different businesses. Question is where to start. You start where you are and you start with what you've got. That's all you need. When you start where you are and with what you've got and you bring your mind to focus on that idea, you will attract everything to you that you need. You are taught, seek ye first this kingdom in its righteousness, and all these things will be given to us. See, when you learn to focus on something, you get on a frequency. And when you're on that frequency, you start to attract whatever you want. You may not have any money. You may not have the resources that you need to execute, to build it into something big. That doesn't matter. All the resources that you need to do anything you want to do is already here. But you've got to get in touch with them. You've got to get in harmony with them, and boom, you'll rush them into your life. You'll attract the money, the people, the thoughts, the things, everything you need, you'll attract to you. So where do you start? You always start where you are, and you start with what you've got. Don't be looking at what you don't have. Think of what you do have. Fall in love with your idea and get it rolling now.
Rule number 2, believe.
If you tell yourself a lie often enough, you're going to start to believe it. And way around 1900, William James said, believe, and your belief will create the fact. It's got to be believed. You've got to believe it. And if there's no belief, it ain't going to happen. See, when you believe it, you're encased in the idea. You fuse with the idea. And that makes all kinds of things happen. When you believe it, there's no quitting. You never quit. It doesn't matter what happens. You don't quit. Quitting is never an option. The people that quit, they never really bought into the idea in the first place. See, you get it on 3 levels. The second you think of something, you've got it intellectually. When you get emotionally involved, you've got it on a spiritual or emotional level. Well, then that expresses itself through the body. Body's just an instrument of your mind. And so when you really buy into it, you literally fuse with it. Neville said you fuse with it. And this causes all kinds of things to happen. You're dealing with electronics. You're dealing with energy. Like the second you think something, that's all you need. See, you live on frequencies. You think on frequencies. Your phone operates on frequencies. And it's like magic. You're in Romania, are you?
Right.
I'm in Toronto.
Yes.
If I've got your number on my phone, I could take a picture of something, hit it like that. You've got it in Romania. Simultaneous with me sending it, because when you get into the mind, there isn't any time or space.
It's just immediate.
Yeah. Well, you're living on frequencies. Now, when you think of something, what you've done is you've flipped your brain onto a higher frequency. The very fact you can see it is all the proof you need to know you could get it. What you have to do is raise your love consciousness to that frequency. And then you will attract whatever's on that frequency. All the good you need to manifest the idea.
Rule number 3, overcome fear.
Overcoming fear is one of the greatest moves a person can make. First of all, we have to ask ourselves what causes fear. Fear is caused by ignorance, not knowing. And if we're going to go and do anything new, if we're going to break out of a paradigm, if we're going to change habit patterns, we're wandering into an area we've never been. And you know, fear stops most people. You'll find people afraid to talk to a stranger. You'll find individuals afraid to stand up and ask a question in front of other people. You'll find salespeople afraid to make a sales call, afraid to ask for the order. Stop and think of how confining that is. A person's putting themselves into a small cell, but it's in their own mind. The doors aren't locked. They can open, and you can walk away to freedom if you learn to overcome fear. When you face fear, it leaves you. Face the thing you fear, and it'll leave you. That's really the secret of it. In fact, if you hold yourself back because of fear, your life actually comes to a stop because nothing gets better than it is. You've got to be courageous. Now, courageous people aren't without fear. Courageous people are the ones that face their fear. I think Eddie Rickenbacker pointed that out, the great pilot. Don't let fear stop you. Make up your mind you're going to step out and do it. Stop and think of the number of people that are in jobs that they don't like and they're afraid to leave. Or people in relationships that are destructive and they're afraid to leave. This is a terrible way to live, and it's not necessary. It's just caused by ignorance. And when we step out and do something, we gain an awareness. We develop an understanding. And like that, the fear is gone. Make up your mind that fear is not going to stop you from doing the thing you really want to do. Step out and do it today.
Rule number 4, visualize.
And when I was 26, I had a man that sat down with me and he said, "Why don't you change the way you're living?" It never entered my mind that I could. And looking back and thinking about it, I think there's all kinds of people wandering the planet. There's all kinds of athletes that are not getting the results they want, and they don't know they can change them.
Right, only one person can change.
There's only one person in the whole universe that can change Bob, and that's Bob.
Yeah.
There's only one person who can change Dave, and that's Dave. Now, we get inspired by other people, we get help from other people, but we've got to do it ourselves. And he gave me Think and Grow Rich, and he said, if you do exactly what I tell you, you can have anything you want. Well, I didn't believe that, but he was so adamant about it, I believed he believed it. And so I started to listen to him. And I set a goal. I wanted some money. I wanted $25,000. Now, this was in 1961, so it was more money then than it is today. But I didn't even know anyone with $25,000. He said, listen, write it on a card, keep reading the book, keep doing what I tell you. So I started to hear people talking about earning money. And there was one guy said, there's good money cleaning floors. You should clean floors. Well, I wasn't proud. I'd clean floors. And he said, but you should do it for yourself, not for somebody else. So he told me where I could buy a used floor machine, some buckets and mops, but I had to borrow $1,000. Well, I was at the point where nobody wanted to touch me with money. And I often say, I wouldn't have lent it to me.
Right.
Because I wouldn't pay it back. Not that I didn't want to, I just couldn't. But I found a guy and he lent me the $1,000.
When you borrow, excuse me, because
Yeah.
I have a question, because I know you. When you borrowed that $1,000, because you owed people money already, you had explained that to people, you were just finding yourself. But did you have a different feeling about when you borrowed this $1,000 that quite possibly you were actually going to be able to pay this back this time?
Do you know something? If I hadn't had that feeling, I wouldn't have got the money. I got it from a guy, I knew his name, Al Kuiper. He was running, and I didn't know him, he had a trust company. It was like a bank on Danforth Avenue in Toronto. And I went in, I read a book where it says, go to one bank and they won't give you, go to another one. Well, I ended up sitting in his office, and he said, what do you want this money for, son? And I told him I was going to build a cleaning company. It was going to be big. I had a dream. And I had to explain it all to him. He said, I think you'll do it. I'm going to lend you the money.
Faith.
But I knew when I was doing this, I had a picture, I had a dream, you see?
Yep.
And within a year, I was earning $175,000 a year. I had my billing up to $15,000 a month working for myself. In less than 5 years, we were working in Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, and London, England. I had my own company opening offices all over the place.
Also, if you want to have more confidence, motivation, and self-love, check out my 254 series. They're free. The links to join are in the description below.
I was reminded this morning of a question I'm often asked. How do you eliminate fear from your life?
What we've got to understand is we're trading our life for our goals. Literally trading our life. So I started to study myself. I found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
Rule number 5, know what you want.
Why most people don't get what they want out of life? Is it...
Well, they don't know what they want.
That's right.
You see, I got this, and then I got Earl Nightingale's condensed narration of this on a long playing record. And I'd listen to that record over and over and over again. One day, I was in the business, in the cleaning business. I had salespeople. And I had them listen to this record. Every morning we listened to this record. And one day I said, you know, I'd love to meet him. And I didn't know who Earl Nightingale was. He was a voice on a record. That was it. I didn't even know where he lived. And a young guy that worked with me, he said, no, you wouldn't. He said, if you wanted to meet him, you'd go and meet him. I thought, damn, he's right. So I phoned, and I got an appointment with him. Now, at the time, he was the most listened to man in the history of the broadcasting industry. He was a radio broadcaster. And not an easy guy to get to, but I got to meet with him for an hour. I flew to Chicago. I spent an hour with him. And when I was leaving, I said, Earl, what's the big deal? You know, I mean, what's it all about? He said, there's no big deal. He said, it's very simple. He says, simply decide what you love to do and then dedicate your life to it. He said, the problem with most people, they don't know what they love to do. They never take the time to sit and ask themselves. What they're doing is trying to, I think I can get earn good money here. I could do it. You know, it's where can they earn some money? It's not what they love to do. Well, I was sitting there. Now, I had offices all over the place. I had a lot of people. I was earning a lot of money. And I got excited because I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to do what he was doing. And I made up my mind sitting in his office. That'd be somewhere around 1965. That I was going to go back and I was going to work with him. And in 1968, I moved to Chicago. I left my own company. I moved to Chicago and I started to work with him.
Rule number 6, be more patient.
Patience is a virtue. I suppose it probably is. But I think patience, real patience, is an expression of deep understanding. You see, everything happens when it's supposed to happen. Everything in this universe happens by law. We set targets and we need things to happen. We need something to come or someone to do something. And frequently we get frustrated because it isn't happening when we think it should happen. Our problem is we're not thinking. We believe we're in charge. We are not in charge. We are in charge of building the idea and holding the idea. Everything else happens automatic. It happens by law. All ideas have a gestation or an incubation period. I'm told when we plant a carrot in the area of the world that I live, it takes approximately 70 days for that carrot to grow and manifest in form. When the seed for the baby's planted, it takes approximately 280 days. And we're usually patient. We will wait the 280 days. Why? Because we know it's going to take approximately 280 days. Well, just because we don't know how long it's going to take doesn't mean that it isn't operating by the same laws. Everything operates by law. So if we gain an understanding that all the ideas in our mind will ultimately move into form, that's what Andrew Carnegie taught Napoleon Hill. Carnegie was Hill's mentor. He said, any idea that's held in the mind, that's emphasized, that's either feared or revered, will begin at once to clothe itself in the most convenient and appropriate form available. You might want to listen to that 2 or 3 times. Burn it into your mind. Gain an understanding of it. And you will know that whatever you're working on takes a period of time. No one knows what the gestation period is for an idea. We only know we can shorten it through concentration, through focus. And when you understand that, you will become more patient. And when you're more patient, you're living in a much more beautiful vibration. You'll be a more pleasant person to be around. You will enjoy yourself more. Patience. It's the result of understanding.
Rule number 7, tap into your genius.
If you really analyze your beliefs, you'll change them.
Right.
I had a friend one time, I was trying to figure out where do beliefs come from. Because all religion and all science will tell you, you got to believe it. William James from Harvard, 1900, he said, believe and your belief will create the fact. So belief is an interesting word. You got to believe it. And I was having lunch with a mentor one time, and he said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. Frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about that situation will change. It was like bells were going off my head because I was trying to understand belief. How do you change your belief? Well, he told me, it's through reevaluation. And so I started to evaluate myself and reevaluate what I was doing. It took me 9.5 years, but I figured out why I changed. And it was the repetition of information.
Thank you.
You're in sports, you know, it's repetition.
Yep.
Repetition, repetition. Well, but practice doesn't make you perfect. Perfect practice makes you perfect. There's a big difference.
Great point.
And so I found that the part of our mind that controls our behavior is not the part of our mind that gathers information. School deals with the part of your mind that gathers information. And so we gather all kinds of information, and if we can remember it, they give us a test, we pass the test, we get the degree, and we're educated. That's not education at all. That is gathering information. Education, as Hill pointed out, comes from the Latin educo, meaning to reduce, to develop, or to draw from within. We have genius in us. We have absolute perfection in us. And what we have to do is learn how to tap into that, to let it out. But we have a part of our mind that controls our behavior, and that's where a paradigm is. And the paradigm literally controls our behavior. I don't care what you're doing. If you're not altering the paradigm, you're not going to improve your results. There's so much about ourselves we never learn. The part of our mind that controls us is our intellect, or our subconscious, where the paradigm is, but we're trained to live through our senses. We're trained to go by what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch. And we've got to understand that we've got this genius within us, and if we will consciously gain an awareness, an understanding of how to alter the paradigm that's controlling our behavior, when we learn that, we can start to improve life, just like that. And there's no end to what we're capable of doing. We're conditioned genetically. All mom's DNA and all dad's DNA becomes our DNA. There's 2 particles of energy come together, that's the moment of conception. 280 days later, we make our debut on the planet, then we're programmed by our environment. Because our subconscious mind, which is totally deductive, it has no ability to reject, the subconscious mind is immoral. It's like the earth. It doesn't care what you plant, but it'll return what you plant. Right. Earl Nightingale used a beautiful example in The Strangest Secret. He said, you can plant nightshade, a deadly poison, not a 16th of an inch away. You can plant corn, a sweet food. One will grow with just as great an abundance as the other. And that's the way your subjective mind works. You put the wrong idea in, it will grow. Put the right idea in, it will grow. We have the ability to change what's in there. We did not program it. It was programmed through genetic history. We're the confluence of a genetic pool that goes back for generations. That's at birth, and then environmentally. And we have the ability to alter all that.
Rule number 8, get good mentors.
See, any success I've had because I've got great mentors. And I'm a good student. Now, until I was 26, I was a terrible student. When I picked up this book, I became a great student. I've got thousands of books. I have an office at home in my home. It's got a couple of thousand books in it, and then I built a studio, and I've got a couple of thousand books in the studio. And I love reading. But the success that I've enjoyed is because of the mentors or the coaches I've had. I would do exactly what they tell me. And if I coach somebody today and they don't do exactly what I tell them, I don't coach them anymore. Just like that, it's all over.
It's not ready.
Well, it's not that only that they're not ready, but if I'm going to coach somebody and they're not doing what I tell them, I'm wasting my time and theirs too. Now, if they want to waste their time, that's their prerogative. I'm not going to waste mine.
Rule number 9, practice forgiveness.
You know, forgiving is one of the most freeing concepts anybody can ever get involved with. Most people look at forgiveness as helping the other person. Somebody hurts you, somebody does you wrong, but you're going to forgive them. You're going to be kind to them. It has nothing to do with the other person. It has to do with yourself. That's really what it has to do. See, forgiveness is a cleansing concept. It's clearing the mind of all negativity, clearing the mind of anything that might go wrong. It's a very freeing concept. If you were to do some harm to me and I forgive you, you haven't got anything to do with it. It's I'm letting go of something that was bothering me, that's negative. And I don't want to hold on to that. Forgiving frees the one that's doing the forgiving. It's a phenomenal concept. Forgive means to let go of completely, abandon. Let it go. Don't hold on to it. You know, if somebody does you wrong, you have to ask yourself, wonder why they would do that. There's something bothering them. They're not really trying to hurt you. It's something that's bothering them. Let it go. Just forgive it. Forgive the idea. And I guarantee you'll feel a lot better.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is develop confidence.
And one of the greatest hang-ups that people have is the belief in themselves. They suffer from something called self-doubt. Many years ago, I read something. It was by Ralph Waldo Emerson. It was his essay on self-reliance. That's what we want to do. We want to rely on self. And in that, he said, there would come a time in every person's education when they'd realize that envy is ignorance and imitation is suicide. So many people look at someone that's doing very well, possibly in the same field they're in, and envy them. Do you know what that's saying? That's saying, I don't know that I have the same mental faculties you've got. I'm drawing on the same potential that you're drawing on. There is only one mind. I don't know that. So I'm going to envy you thinking you can do something I'm not able to do. The truth is, if you can do it, I can do it. Envy is ignorance. It's not knowing that. And he said, imitation is suicide. Do you know that nothing in this universe would move in the precise order it moves in your absence? That's true. Everything in the universe is essential. You take any part away from anything, it's not complete. And everything in the universe moves in a very precise way. So do you see, we shouldn't even want to be like anybody else because we are unique. We are truly unique. There's something about us that you'll never find in another person. We're unique. And we've got the godlike ability to think. Now, what is self-doubt? Self-doubt is the opposite of self-confidence. Confidence comes from understanding. Like I would imagine you're confident you can drive your car. In fact, you're so confident that you'll be talking to somebody on the phone, you'll get in the car, you'll start the car, you'll drive, and you'll drive maybe 4 or 5 blocks, not even being aware of what you've done. It's all done automatic. Your concentration is on the conversation you're on. Now, when you first got in a car, you couldn't do that. The car was probably jumping all over the place, and you thought you'd never learn how to drive it. But you learned how to drive it. Now you're quite confident. You're confident that you can get dressed when you get up in the morning. When you were a little boy or a little girl, you couldn't do that. You had to be taught to do it. Well, you know, self-confidence comes, like all confidence, it comes with knowledge. And the more you study you, the more you understand who you are, the more confident you'll become in your ability to do whatever it is you're doing. And you'll know that if you lack confidence in an area, it's because you lacked information in that area. Never doubt yourself. And when you do, understand that the cause of that doubt is not lying within you, it's in wrong thinking, it's in not understanding who you are. Study yourself. Self-study will develop self-confidence, and self-confidence eliminates self-doubt.
Now I've got a special bonus clip from Bob Proctor on how to think and grow rich. I think you're gonna enjoy it. But before that, it's time for the 3-point landing questions. Let's go from just watching a video to taking action. Here we go. Question number 1. Where do you need to develop your confidence? Number 2, who do you need to forgive this week? And number 3, where do you need to be more patient? And if you made it this far in the video, I wanna celebrate you too. Give me a #believe down in the comments as well.
What did you do to learn about yourself? You said you went around as many seminars.
I attended seminars.
Okay.
I went and listened to different speakers who taught something about the mind. I think the answer's in our mind if we'll start studying and trying to understand our mind.
Okay. Let me get back to you if I can. What did you learn about Bob Proctor during that study?
Well, I learned that the biggest part of me you'll never see. It's non-physical. And what you see here in the physical body is nothing but the physical manifestation of the higher side of my personality. And of course that's true with you, and you know, Nancy's on the camera. It's true of everyone. And what we have to study, I think, is how does this non-physical part of my mind work? What happens when I think? Where do thoughts come from? How was this chair built? Somebody had to think. Thoughts are everywhere, and we pull thoughts into our mind and we build pictures or images in our mind.
Okay.
What we want to understand is that's a non-physical side of ourself that's doing that. If I can build an image of something in my mind, I'm quite capable of building a physical replica of it in my world. So if I build an image of me as a happy, relaxed person, I can live like that. If I build an image of myself as being prosperous, I can become prosperous.
So if we think rich, we will be rich.
Absolutely. We're already rich, just short of money.
Okay, those of us that like to acquire more money and or happiness or whatever we see success, those of us that want to reach the goals that we've set for ourselves, we do it first by...
Well, the first thing you do is sit down and decide what you want. If it's money you want, how much money?
Lots of money.
Well, nobody knows how much lots is.
Okay.
So you've got to be specific.
Okay.
You write down on a card exactly what you want. And you carry that card around and read it often. Now, this is what I learned in this book, Think and Grow Rich, and it's what I teach in the seminars. I'll teach people how to set goals. But you decide exactly what you want. And then you start to think. Now, you're going to have thoughts come to your mind of why you can't get it. Mm-hmm. You have the ability in your conscious mind to reject that idea, kick it out of your mind. Thinking of why you can't do something is never going to do you any good. And keep thinking until you start to think of thoughts of how you can do it. And the way will be shown to you. It comes in the form of images in our mind. Think of how you can and not why you can't.
If you want 10 more rules from Bob Proctor, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll enjoy it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Fall in love with what you do, and you'll be creating great stuff wherever you go. Love what you do. Love the people that you're working with. Fall in love with the idea of love.